Welcome into another episode of Spectre and Spooks. I am your host, Brooke Ashley, evidential medium and paranormal investigator. And today is probably my favorite day in the whole wide world because I get to spend the entire time talking about Butte, Montana with my good friend, Tony Hoffman. Welcome in, Tony. How are you doing?
Hi, guys. How are we doing? Doing pretty well.
Good. I'm glad to have you here. So if you guys are unaware, Tony Hoffman was on Ghost of Devil's Perch. Tony is also a teacher in Butte and is filled with, really should be a historian, like the Butte's historian right next to Chris Fisk, side by side, memorialized in history for all eternity. A history keeper of Butte, Montana, in my opinion, and does a lot of awesome, really cool things in the community that have to do with not only the history of Butte and keeping it very well and alive, but also with the paranormal, which it's rife with. So, Tony, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into this space? Are you a Butte native? What got you into the paranormal, stuff of that nature?
Yeah, so I am a Butte native. I've been living here for the last 35 years. I'm actually fourth generation Butte. My great-great-grandfather was one of the founding members of the Machinists Union here in town. And my mom's side of the family has been here since about the 1880s. So deep roots, deep history on that right there. And I've always had a fascination with the history of this town growing up here. I mean, growing up in the largest historic landmark district in the West is just amazing. And there's no better place to be a history teacher, honestly. It's kind of it was a goal of mine and it's kind of a dream come true. Chris Fisk was a teacher up at Butte High School. While I was a student up there, I graduated from Butte High in 2008. And then when I came back to student teaching and I got together, we started working together a little bit more. And he brought me on board with the Spooks and Spirits tours. I was a little bit of a skeptic for many years. I had a little bit of experience or some experiences when I was younger, but definitely a believer now.
Yeah. I feel like the combination of Butte itself, and then you throw Chris Fisk in the mix, there's no way you're not going to believe at some point. Yeah.
And it's a ton of fun working with him. He's just a great guy. As you guys have seen on Ghost of Devil's Perch, he's a wealth of information and knowledge as well. Yeah. So it's been great to have him as a mentor.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know that I started coming to Butte, I'd say about 2 years ago. I just on a whim decided to call the phone number for the Dumas brothel and see. I'm like, I'm just going to send him an email and see if I can get in there. And sure enough, David Prince, who owns the Dumas brothel, was very accommodating. And so we started there. And then we met Chris the second time we came for the Dumas brothel. And I feel like since then, I've met you and I've been hanging out with you and Chris Fisk. And it's become this stop on my travels. I have to stop in Butte, but I would have to say, if we are going to talk about Butte, I feel like people need to understand the history before they understand the hauntings. So where would you start if you were going to give somebody a quick rundown of Butte and why it's so important?
I do trolley tours for the Butte Chamber of Commerce as well. And that's kind of my beginning is if you guys come and take a trolley tour, I'm going to start off with, Native Americans have been in this area for close to 10,000 years, especially the Salish tribe. And they're going to name the creek that runs through town the place where you shoot fish with arrows. You start to get kind of the first settlers through the area, 1856. A guy by the name of Caleb Irvine comes through here just with a mule train. Notices a spot where there's a pit dug out with elk antlers, and that's eventually going to be the site of what we call the original mine here in town. Eventually get gold strikes, Bannock, Montana. Of course, that's another huge haunt. Virginia City, Nevada City here, 1862, 1863. And then as prospectors start fanning through the area, October of 1864, they're going to make a gold discovery on Silverboat Creek. And that's going to be one 7-Up Pete McMahon, Geo Humphreys, and one William Allison as well. But that brings an influx of settlers into the area. And really that gold starts to, I guess, play out towards the 1870s, 1880s. They're going to start to sink some of the first windlasses and shafts in this area and start to do quartz mining. And that's going to bring one William Farland into town. He runs a mine called the Trevona. Eventually, though, he knows he needs milling and smelting in the area, especially. So he turns to one William Andrews Clark for financial backing. And he gets his start down in Bannock, Montana. Born in Connellsville, Pennsylvania, makes his way up this direction. And he makes a killing off the backs of the miners. This man was just a financial genius from the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, he's selling eggs for $3.50 a dozen in the 1860s. That's about $110 for a dozen eggs in today's money. So much so he just starts a bank, in Deer Lodge, Montana. But he eventually ends up owning that Trevona mine. Some people might say it wasn't a fair deal with what happened with Farland on that. But he's kind of the start of our first copper kings, as we call them.
Yeah.
And then the second guy who's going to come into town is a gentleman by the name of Marcus Daly. And he's our Irish copper king. He was 15 years old, left Ireland with only a few dollars in his pocket and worked the docks in New York City, saved up enough money for steamer passage to San Francisco and the gold fields there. Eventually makes his way to Virginia City, Nevada. That's been featured on a lot of shows, especially Zach Bagans with that. Meets one George Hurst while he's there, and they become very good friends and lifelong friends. But eventually he's sent to Butte City, Montana in 1876 to assess a mine called the Alice for the Walker brothers out of Salt Lake City. And he's going to stay here. As you guys know from the show, from Ghosts of Devils Perch, one Michael Hickey is going to turn to him. He says, hey, I got this Anaconda mine named after the Civil War plan to squeeze off the South during that conflict. Well, he buys that mine for $30,000 or $750,000 in today's money. And Marcus Daly is going to dig 300 feet down and hit the world's largest reserve of copper. It's a perfect time period where he comes in. You've got the invention of the telephone, the telegraph, and the incandescent light bulb, 1879. Butte's going to have electricity before most of Paris and New York City. We have light bulbs in the Alice mine in 1880. Eventually, our main streets electrified in 1883. But that really brings in a large influx of immigrants to Butte. And Butte is going to be a miniature New York City or a miniature Chicago with the different neighborhoods. You have Meterville, where the Italians are going to live. McQueen, where a lot of the Eastern Europeans are at. We had a Finn town at one point in time, large Finnish population. And with that, they're miners for the most part. 1917, you're looking at about 14,500 miners working underground around the shift, or around the clock. And I mean, really, it was dangerous conditions. You're going to have something what's called a dugan, a large overhanging rock, that if it came out of the back or the rock wall and crushed a man, Mr. Dugan, the mortician at the time, is going to get your body. So both Dugans got you. And an old man during that time period is 36 years old. See many people that were 40, a lot of widows in Butte, a lot of Irish wakes in those houses uptown. And this town was used to death. That was around us all the time. And with that, a lot of the immigrants brought their beliefs as well. For example, the Tommy knocker, you're coming out of Cornwall, Ireland, Wales, as well as they bring the pasty along with them, which I always make the joke. It's a pasty, not a pasty. Explain the difference on that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's the history is amazing.
It is.
And I think what a lot of people don't understand is without Butte, our country wouldn't look the way that it looks at all.
Yes, and your Butte's producing about a third of the world's copper during the second industrial age. We're producing half of the United States copper. And when you talk about World War I, World War II, the amount of mineral wealth that has been pulled out of Butte has been found nowhere else on the face of this planet. I mean, you're talking of billions and billions of pounds of copper pulled out of this hill. And that's why we get the nickname, the richest hill on earth. You know, some people, when I take on tours, they go, really, are you guys really the richest hill on earth? We may not be known for the mining as much anymore, but the people, I would have to say, make us the richest hill on earth as well.
Yeah. I feel like the people of Butte are, you know, it's wild because Martin and I always talk about how Butte is the best kept secret, in my opinion, because it's like everybody just passes it by. And when I ask if anybody's heard of Butte, they tell me no. And I'm like, I'm almost kind of, it's sad because it's like, how do you not, you have the history, but on the other end of the stick, it's like, well, we get to keep it to ourselves because every time we come to Butte, we feel at home. I swear I had a past life in Butte because I feel so at home there. And the people are so kind and they're so nice. And they're just, everybody is good peoples in Butte. Yeah, really good people.
I'm a little biased on that, but I agree. You know, it's been great growing up here, and the culture's still there. And you know, with the death, with, you know, all of those things, I think it's kind of brought this community together. Anytime anybody's sick, anytime anybody's going through a hard time, this community rallies and definitely takes care of people. And you don't find that too many places, I don't think. But
no, you don't. It's a beautiful thing to see. And you can tell how close people from Butte are to each other, just being in the presence. It's like everybody knows everyone and everyone seems to be like, you know, just a helping hand at the drop of a hat. People are so nice in Butte. And I can see the camaraderie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like with the, you know, it's funny about Butte because it has such a, I feel like it's such a whirlwind history, right? If you talk about Butte, you could talk about a million things. You could talk about it being the biggest red light district in the country. You could talk about the second wealthiest man in the entire country living in Butte, being a copper king of Butte, William A. Clark, which is funny to me because everybody knows who Rockefeller is, but nobody seems to know who William A. Clark is. And I think that's fascinating to me. You know?
Well, there's that connection too with Rockefeller. I mean, Marcus Daly was going to pass away in 1900 in New York City, but before he passed away, he went into business with the Rockefellers, and I mean, they're going to Standard Oil is going to use the Anaconda Company as a holding company for them. I mean, and they're going to be broken up. I mean, it's the antitrust age of President Teddy Roosevelt. I mean, there's major court battles over all of these things. And if you want to talk about changing the history of this country, William Andrews Clark is going to buy his Senate seat. I mean, during that time period, you could, it went to the Montana State Legislature, decide who's going to become senator, and some envelopes of cash are handed out, bribery allegations. 17th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, direct election of senators, has a lot to do with that right there, as well as Citizens United.
Yeah. Yeah. It's rife with history because you can start from the beginning and you can start from, you know, the people who started it, the people who built it, you talk about the Copper Kings, you can talk about the Red Light District, but then you're talking about getting into like the early like the 1920s or, you know, in that era. And you're talking about unionization and what it did to the area.
And Butte is considered the Gibraltar of unionism. I mean, one of the very first industrial unions in this country is started here June 13th, 1878. The Walker brothers are going to cut wages and the guys walk off the job and they come back, you know, with better working conditions. The other thing with the Copper Kings is these men lived in this community, you know, William Andrews Clark, Marcus Daly. And under them, I mean, you didn't have the labor strifes that you're going to have later on with Standard Oil and in the Anaconda Company. I mean, strikes were very common in this town throughout the years. It was not uncommon for strikes to happen pretty frequently.
Yeah. It's a crazy history, and you could just go on and on and on and on and on. I swear.
It is. And I teach Butte history. And it's a semester long class. And to be honest with you, I could take easily a year to teach. get too excited. It's
Absolutely.
just too
It's
much.
unbelievable. It's crazy to me. And I never get bored. It
Mhm.
fascinates me. And I don't think, if you're a history buff, you're a history buff. And I think that people who are not don't understand like the way we feel when we are near or talk about history. It makes your heart palpitate. It like gets you excited. I don't know. I feel like, and the thing is, I find that it's kind of funny to me because you have these hardcore historians, but they're generally not ones to play around with the paranormal or even give that a lot of thought.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, which is why it's so interesting. And I find it so fascinating and so exciting to watch two incredible history teachers blend that into what they do so seamlessly that I think it gives validity to the idea that there is something else there. How can we sit here and say that there's not? It's energy is energy. And
Right.
whether or not we're deeming it incorrectly, it's still there. It's still playing on a loop. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And especially this town. I mean, when Cindy Kaza was here, I asked her the question on why do you think this place is so haunted, or how are people able to move from one location to another?
Mhm.
And you talk about the Boulder Batholith. The Boulder Batholith is going to leave behind with that creation a large amount of quartz as well as granite, and we're sitting on top of a granite hill. I
Yeah.
mean, this is hard rock mining to its core. We sit a mile high, however, dynamite made us a mile deep, and that deepest shaft was a mile deep.
Yeah.
But you're going to have 10,000 miles of underground workings under this community. And when ARCO shuts the underground dewatering pumps off in 1982, virtually flooding those workings as well on the East Camp workings, I should be a little bit more specific on that, as well as the Berkeley pit. I mean, you've got tunnels with water running through them underneath this community. I don't know how to explain it, but there's
It's like all the right elements for a haunting.
It's perfect. It's perfect conditions
Yeah.
when it comes to that. And, I know the main draw is the Dumas for Butte, and that is the main draw for a lot of people.
It's not the most haunted, though. It's
I
not the
don't
most.
think it is either. I mean, I think it is pretty haunted, but we've had some experiences. Yeah.
Yeah, the Dumas is always rife with activity, but that's the thing that I could say about all of Dumas. I have not gone one place that has felt like a dud or like there's no activity. Every place I've
Right.
gone is a paranormal investigator's dream. I will
Yes.
say that, including the Dumas. But I have to admit, after the last time hanging out with you and Chris, I have never been in my entire life somewhere more haunted than Silverbow Center.
It's rife with activity. Yeah.
It's wild, and as a medium, I've never walked into a place where I got transported back in time, and I'm literally walking through and watching everybody and everything that's happening and all the conversations and the cigars and the drinks. I've never had that happen to me before. So it's gotta be such a heavy imprint in that building. It's wild.
And that's where the heavy hitters rubbed elbows.
Yeah.
The original Millionaires Club was on that site. That building's 1907, right next to the courthouse, right there. But within that square block radius, you've got a lot of things that happen.
Yeah.
Martial law, 1914. You've got federal troops eventually being stationed there. You've got 10 legal executions happening right in the courtyard of the courthouse. And Silverbow County still has the record for the most legal executions under the Big Sky State.
Oh, wow.
Last one that's going to occur is in 1926. So we're coming up on the 100-year anniversary. And that was Tony Viteri, the shotgun slayer of Meterville, right there. So,
Yeah. And his story was featured on Ghost of Devil's Perch.
As well as Miles Fuller, the courthouse ghost, as they like to call him. There's sightings of him even up to this day.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. So I would have to ask you, as a Butte native, what do you think is the most haunted location in all of Butte?
I've got to say, working in the Dumas and just doing the tours in the Dumas, I've had a lot of experiences in there. The Myra building would have to be another large haunt right there. It doesn't seem like there's much going on there. It's a small building, but there's a lot to it. The Cabbage Patch, definitely right behind there. I would have to say the old hospital here in Butte as well. The old St. James Hospital would have to be another big one. But working underground in the Orphan Girl mine for the World Museum of Mining, there was a lot going on underground as well. That's the only spot where the public can get underground in Butte and see the actual workings to this day.
Yeah, absolutely. Brandy is from Butte. She was born and raised in Butte. Hi, Brandy. Welcome in.
Hi, Brandy.
She says they've got so many different hauntings, which I have to agree with. I feel like I haven't even scratched the surface.
No.
And I've been to the Myra with you. I've been to the Cabbage Patch. I've been to Silver Bow Center. I've been to Dumas 4 times now, I think.
Yeah.
And there's places I'm like, I want in that church that is boarded up. Like I want in there so bad. Like, I've been to the cemetery with you. Like,
yeah, we went out. The last Madam of the Dumas, Ruby Garrett. Yeah, she's buried right out where Evel Knievel is buried. Yes, Evel Knievel is from Butte, Montana, born and raised and buried here as well. So
yeah, and the thing is, people who watch Ghost of Devil's Perch didn't get Ruby's story.
No, they didn't.
She is something else. She is a legend in Butte.
She was a legend in, the 1950s. She's going to go to prison for shooting her husband in the Board of Trade bar. Eventually, she's running the Dumas brothel all the way up until 1982. And you talk about history here. 1890, the Nadeau brothers, Joseph and Arthur out of Quebec, Canada, are going to start the copper block here in town as well as the Dumas. And that building's going to run from 1890 until 1982. The high school was built in 1938 in its current location, and it's only 2 blocks away from the Dumas in the former red light district.
Those teenage boys are walking past there every day going, what's going on in here?
I mean, it's just, it was the history. And, we talk about the red light district history. It's quintessential to talk about that if you're going to talk about Butte history. And I think those ladies do deserve to have their stories told. They were here. They had families. They lived the lives as well. And I think it's a history that we shouldn't cover up. I really don't. Third largest red light district in the country, 1,500 working girls at one point in time in a 3 square block radius. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
When it comes to that. And that's a lot of dark history as well. There's a lot of hidden history that we don't know about as well. Maybe we don't want to know about.
Right.
That's why I lean on you for that. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. If you guys don't know, Tony and I and Martin, we will get together when we can. And Tony knows that I don't like to know anything ahead of time. So I will stay in the dark. I won't research ahead of time. And if there is something that I do know, like the Dumas, I will try to ask my spirit team to show me something else that doesn't have to do with that. So I remember the first time I went into the Dumas, I was like, okay, obviously I know about Eleanor, but tell me what else I need to know here. And they said room 7. And I was like, okay. And room 11. And so I asked David, like, what's room 7? He's like, oh, well, that's Ruby Garrett's room. And I was like, who's Ruby Garrett? Because they didn't talk about it on television. But for those who are unaware, Tony and I and Mart will investigate, but Tony will take me around and be like, what are you feeling? What are you sensing? What are you picking up on? And I'm just like, okay, let's do this.
Well, and I tested you a little bit. I took you behind the depot bar to see if you could pick up on something. I mean, if you don't know this history of Butte and these things, you're not going to pick up on what happened behind the depot. That was the spot of the Great Butte Explosion, January 15th, 1895. You have a mining company here in town, Kenyon Connell Mining Company, who was illegally storing dynamite within city limits. And they were storing up to a ton in their warehouse. You could only have 100 pounds of dynamite within town for personal use. Yeah. So an unattended stove started a fire. Our fire department responded, and there was a massive explosion. It blew out, actually 3 explosions, second one being bigger than the first. It's going to leave 58 Butte citizens dead, including most of our paid fire department. They saw the fireball in Belgrade, Montana, over the top of the Continental Divide, which Belgrade's close to 80 miles away. And they heard it in Willow Creek over 50 miles away. So when I took you back there, there's really no remnants or anything for you to pick up on that you would be able to know that. And you picked up right on that. Okay. There was an explosion here. I see fire. I mean, the hair on the back of my neck was standing up on that one. Yeah. That.
I feel like if you weren't a believer before that, you were at that point.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. You're like, what are you picking up here? I'm just like, give me a minute.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, I just hear this kaboom, kaboom. I'm like, was there an explosion here? And you were like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's
great.
so much fun, like going into these buildings and getting a chance to do that with you and Fisk, because, you know, it's so fun to watch your guys' faces be like, and I know, like, when we were at Silverbow, I was picking up on some stuff. I got like the name Jeremy, and I was picking up on all this stuff. And then Chris looks at you and he says, not a word. Don't say a word.
Yeah, he knew, because he saw me smiling and kind of looking at him. But that's when you work together like that, you can kind of pick up on those little nuances.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. But speaking of Silverbow, we do have a clip that we caught together. And we were blown away, right, Tony?
I am excited for this one. This is big.
It's big.
The best piece of evidence I've ever seen.
Yeah, hands down. And I think we watched it like 15 to 20 times in a row just to make sure that we weren't crazy. And
Fisk had me walk back and walk forward and walk back. We tried everything we possibly could to debunk it. Can't debunk it.
Can't debunk it. So I'm going to show that to you guys right now. I am going to click on over to the share screen, and I am going to share this with you. Facebook. All right. Are you guys ready? If you are watching this in a bright room, please turn your lights off. It is hard to see when you have lights in your face. Your eyes have to get a little adjusted to a darker room. So get into a dark place or turn off your lights so you can see this. But here we go. And let's hit play.
I swear, it looks like somebody is standing there. I swear to God.
Here. Martin's walking around over here.
Yeah.
It's moving. I heard it.
And then I'm going to slow it down so you can watch it slow motion right in this area, right where the doorway is lit.
And there she comes.
Yep. Yeah. So,
Okay.
That was wild.
Yeah. I cannot explain that one. That definitely rocked my world. That was a huge piece of evidence.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I know you were like, this is like Fisk is going to freak out.
I said, he's not going to believe me. And he didn't. He didn't believe me. He goes, that has to be AI. I said, that is not AI.
I'm telling you.
Not a truth.
Because I remember sitting in the middle of the room thinking something was telling me, Brooke, get your phone and start filming the door areas. You just film them. Something's going on there. I could feel it. So I was focused on the light underneath the door that goes into that other room. Right. That's where I was focused, because I did not see the shadow figure as I was watching through the camera. I only saw it back when I was watching it with you guys to try to see if there was someone blocking out the light at the bottom of the doorway. Had I not gone back to, I probably wouldn't have seen that. We probably would have missed it. So yeah, we caught that in real time as we were still at the Silverbow Center investigating, because I was trying to see if I could find anything on there while we were still sitting in the middle of the room. So that building is absolutely amazing. Is there any word on like what they're planning on doing with that building?
It does have an owner that I believe they're working on fixing it up. There were dances that were held there for years.
Mhm.
Before that, it was Butte Miners Union Hall #1 for many years right there. So it went from being the Silverbow Millionaires Club,
Mhm.
where the richest of the rich were at, John D. Ryan, Fritz Augustus Hines, all you name it, the big wigs of Butte, to being the Miners Union Hall, which is kind of cool on that end. I'm not sure exactly what the plans are on that. However, History Club stays the night there, or has historically stayed the night there for our Millionaires Night experience. We've done Cabbage Patch for many
Mhm.
years, with the kids staying the night in the Cabbage Patch, and then we do Millionaires Night as well. And the kids love it. They love doing the ghost hunting. They think it's great.
Mhm.
And going back, talking about history, if you can tie that history back to those haunts, the kids will never forget, and they
Yeah.
don't. I mean, Butte history is one of their favorite classes. And I'm not tooting my own horn. I had big shoes to walk into with Chris Fisk, but they love Butte history.
Yeah.
It's just a great class.
Yeah. And I agree with you. If you can tie that together, they'll never forget the history. It'll never leave their mind because they have something to attach it to, an
Mhm.
experience that they had themselves, you know what I mean? And
It's
it's
a
just,
hook. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And I think it's incredible to find teachers that are brave enough to do that, because I know that there's got to be some people in the community that think you two are cuckoo.
Oh no, yeah, it's always, but we think they're cuckoo as well, so that's fine.
Like, you just do your thing, we'll do our thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
to each their own. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
right.
it's,
I love it because you got a lot of old school thinkers in that town, a lot of old school ways of thinking.
yeah. Butte doesn't like change. That's
Mm-mm.
always been one of those things. It's a good thing and it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the buildings in Uptown Butte, just the brick and mortar structures and everything else like that, we preserve our history and we don't like to knock those buildings down.
Mhm.
That's something that says a lot about our community, is we haven't knocked the old buildings down. People will come in and they'll renovate them or try to fix them up and preserve the history
Yeah.
behind them, which is great.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope that never changes.
Yeah, I hope so too. But what a shame that would be. It's such an incredible town. And I feel like when you're driving into it, it's like, I don't know what it is. You come up over some of those hills and you can kind of see all of it. And then you kind of go back down in and it's like, oh, you see the M's
Yep.
on the mountains. You see, if the first time I came into Butte, it was dark. So imagine me coming into Butte for the first time after watching Ghost of Devil's Perch with those red, like they're all lit up, and oh my gosh, it was
So
crazy.
those are called, we call them head frames. The official name is a gallows frame, to an eerie similarity to what you would hang somebody off of. But
Yeah.
somehow it got turned into a gallus frame. My theory is just with the amount of immigrants we have, especially Irish immigrants, that just got changed from gallows to gallus
Yeah.
when it came to that. But at one point in time, I mean, you're going to have hundreds of mines operating between wooden head frames and those steel ones as well.
Mhm.
And we almost tore those down. There was talk of that back after the Anaconda Company went bankrupt or sold out to Arco. They were knocking the head frames down for scrap steel. And the people of Butte said, "You're not going to knock any more head frames down. This is
Yeah.
our heritage. This is our history, and we need to preserve this." So
Yeah.
I've never been to another community where I've seen the head frames like that. I know that there are German head frames in Ireland, especially Bearahaven and the Beara Peninsula. They have those as well, which a lot of Butte people, the Irish, came from that area as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. I'm glad that people stepped in and said no, because it wouldn't be the same without them.
No.
It wouldn't be the same. And your guys' outlook, what's the name of the outlook where you can see the Berkeley pit?
So we have the pit viewing stand where you can pay to go see the Berkeley pit. You're looking at about 50 billion gallons of toxic water right there. The remnants of what happens when you shut pumps off and allow sulfides in the water as well as your iron pyrite content. It's acidic water, and that's kind of what we're known for. Dirty water, they call us there. But if you come and visit Butte, no, we don't get our water from the Berkeley pit. I promise. It's safe.
You guys wouldn't be no longer living.
No, right. Yeah, exactly. And they're treating the water currently, but it's an example. We were the largest Superfund site in the country at one point in time, and one of the first ones on the list. But a lot of cleanup has occurred in between there, and it's a job that's going to keep happening for who knows how long.
Yeah. Some people say it's kind of the some people will say it's like it's the tale that's told basically about what happens when people get involved in greed and things of that nature, and they start going to and then all these things can happen, these catastrophic things that but it's all a part of history. It's all a part of something bigger, than I think than ourselves, and it's the tales that are told. I mean, I don't even know where to start. Like which tales do we tell, especially when it comes to Butte, Montana? But I mean, I think sometimes I wonder when you guys are going to sink into the ground with the amount of caves that are underneath you guys.
So the thing with that as well, with the 10,000 miles of tunnel, is with the water, you have the hydrostatic pressure holding things up as well. I don't know if they started dropping that water level or not. I don't have the science degree to that point, or the knowledge on that. But if they started dropping that water level, I'm sure there would be major slumping or some issues right there. But I mean, we basically mined down to sea level underneath our town with the shafts and the drifts and stopes and you name it. Yeah, in between there. I mean, your guess is as good as mine on that.
I know. I think to myself, oh my God, like, what are they being held up by? I mean, there's not, because I saw the map. When I went to the Mining History Museum, and it's like, how is this thing even, how is the ground even, it's sitting on nothing. It's wild.
It is pretty wild to see it. I mean, you could walk underground from mine to mine to mine at one point in time on different drift levels, and it's just amazing that they were able to do that with such precision. But then they're going to switch to open pit mining in 1955 with the creation of the Berkeley pit, and that's going to run all the way up until 1982. And those pumps are shut off on Earth Day 1982, by the way, filling up the pit. So it's kind of a little ominous on that, but
yeah, definitely a little ominous. I would have to say, if we were going to take it back to the paranormal, what is one of the spookiest stories you've been told of the area when it comes to the paranormal?
Oh, gosh.
I feel like you told me one about St. James Hospital or something like that.
The St. James Hospital, that was the spot for high school kids and people to break into for many years. I mean, breaking and entering. And it was almost like a rite of passage, kind of doing that. Of course, illegal. Don't do these things, kids. Just like don't climb a head frame. Big no-no on that one unless you have permission. But I mean, the amount of stories that I hear from people from Butte, it's not uncommon for someone just to come up to me and just start talking paranormal. Like, I've never met this person before in my entire life. The amount of people that have had experiences is astronomical. And Butte's pretty open and receptive to that.
Yeah, I think that's so cool. I haven't been in the St. James Hospital yet, but I'm hoping to do so in the future. I mean, I feel like there's so many locations yet to be like seen and investigated, at least, because I know that there's a lot of locations there that either they're only paranormal hunted by locals, or one particular maybe local team, but they're not really one that's well known to the public. And I feel like St. James Hospital is one of the ones that doesn't really go out to the public so much. I mean, you have to kind of know someone to get in there, or there has to be an event being held, which doesn't happen very often.
No, and when they do those events, it's usually an overnight. I believe it's $100 to do the overnight event, and they open that up. I stayed the night in Waverly Hills. I investigated Waverly Hills in Louisville, Kentucky, and it was comparable to that. I mean, it was about $100 to stay the night and do
Yeah.
that.
That's wild. I can't believe you've done Waverly. That's like such a bucket list for so many people, but
Oh, I had to do it. I was there for a
yeah,
speech and debate tournament there the night before. The kids weren't there. I said, what do I want to do? So I did that, and it was amazing. It was well worth it.
that's so cool. I feel like we talk about these big places like Trans-Allegheny or Waverly or, some of these places that are so well known. And it's like people are like, oh my God, I have to go. They're on every ghost show. But I just think it's funny to me because I feel like I would have a hard time finding a place that beats Butte, in my opinion.
And to be honest with you, I agree. I mean, this is a ghost hunting mecca. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
it's rife for it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I think probably if I was talking about top haunts, I would have to say the cribs of the Dumas, the downstairs basement area of the Dumas would be the top kind of scary experience for me.
Yeah.
Just the feeling down there. The EVPs we've caught,
Yep.
seeing full bodied apparitions, walk through. I mean, I can't explain it. It's just, it's amazing.
Yeah. Martin and I have done Dumas, I think, 4 times, and we caught something different every time. So
Yep.
many women EVPs of women just in the background, chatting away,
Oh yeah.
talking. They're there all the time, and it's you always catch something. I've caught a woman near the boiler in the cribs say something. We caught stuff just talking while we were on the top floor, and it sounded like it was coming from the main floor, just talking, yelling, whooping, stuff like that in the background. I mean, and every time that we went to the Dumas, it was a different energy. First time we went, I felt excited. It was bubbly. I could feel the women in the space. We were getting lots of EVPs from women. We had gotten like a 2-hour private tour from David Prince before we started. And then he just gave us the keys and was like, just put them in the mailbox when you're done. And I was like, oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. Dave and Charlie are great people. They're
Yeah.
awesome. And
Really awesome.
I'm glad that they bought that building and that they're into it and they allow people to do the things they do. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it seems like some of these buildings have an energy of their own and they pick the owner, and that owner almost like works for the building's best interest and not for theirs. It's kind of haunting, to be honest.
Yeah, and if you watch the Dead Files episode on the Dumas, they kind of allude to that as well. Yeah, former owner, they likened him to Joseph Nadeau, reincarnated. So I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I caught a woman saying his name, by the way, the last time we investigated there. I said, do you know this person? Do you know this person? Nothing, nothing, nothing. I said, do you know Michael? And a woman said yes, really loud in the background. So it's just like wild that I would talk about, did Marcus Daly come through here? Do you know who William A. Clark is? Things of that nature. And then when I say a previous owner's name, I get, I get a hit. So it's almost like the connection that the owner has to the building, it like seeps into the building, and it's like reciprocal because they all know the owners as well. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. And what's interesting too is right across the street was the Blue Range 56 building, and you're going to have Burton K. Wheeler. You're going to have an actual U.S. senator owning that at one point in time. So
yeah,
kind of interesting.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, the top floor was for the money, 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 money,
Mm-hmm.
and then that downstairs.
Yeah, that was the money area right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an incredible building. It has a life of its own. I think that when we talk about hauntings, I think the most special ones are the ones where you can literally feel like the building is alive. It's a breathing, living thing. It's its own entity. And I feel that way with the Dumas for sure.
And it doesn't matter what time of the day you go in that building, you're going to get something. You could go in at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning, and you're going to pick up on something.
Yeah.
The temperature changes and the energy fluctuations in that building are pretty intense. And when Fisk and I have groups for spooks and spirits tours that we do, and I'm down in the cribs with them. I mean, you can tell when something's about to happen. The energy will just change and the temperature will drop. And then the next, something's happening right there. But I'll tell you a little funny story here, if you don't mind on that.
I love it.
Okay, so September, I had a skeptic come with me into the Dumas, and he didn't believe in any of this stuff. I mean, he thought I'm nuts, and Fisk is nuts, and everything else. Well, we took him downstairs into the cribs, and we were doing the Estes method with him. I know, nice of me, right? Rookie, we're going to put him right into the Estes, right there. So he's listening to the spirit box and everything. And I said, John Farron, are you here? And he threw those headphones off, ran up the stairs and out the front door. He was hyperventilating when I went out there. I said, are you okay? He said, I don't know what just happened. He said, but something came across and said, get out. And he said it was one of the clearest things. He goes, you have rocked my world. My foundation is shook. And for those of you who don't know who John Farron was Benita Farron's husband. Benita is the person who's going to report Eleanor Knott's death when Eleanor Knott passes away suspiciously. He's found not too long after that with a severely broken neck on the second floor landing of the stairs in the Dumas. So I pick up on John. John might not be a big fan of me. He likes to swear at me sometimes. So
yeah, he rushed me. He came down the stairs at me, and I've never been rushed before. It was the weirdest feeling. I got this sensation like someone was coming at me, and then all of this wind, and all the doors are closed. The doors are closed. There's no wind. All of this wind just whoosh down the stairs, so much so that there was a leaf that had been sitting on the stairs that had been drug in, I think, by someone's shoe. It lifted up, went like this, and went straight at me. I ended up flying into whatever that thing is at the bottom of the steps. I don't know if it's an armoire, like a holder or something like that.
Yeah. Well, and there's the mannequin that's down there too. That's a good jump scare for people.
Yeah. I feel like it always is. It got me the first couple of times, but I got rushed and I felt like it was a man as well. And I think that whole place is rife with every single thing you need for paranormal activity. I mean, the whole story of Eleanor Watts and how they called her destitute. She was not destitute. And then didn't Benita end up with everything?
And Benita ended up with brothel after Eleanor passed away. And Eleanor wasn't very old. I think she was 42, maybe. And it says coronary occlusion, heart attack on there. But she had a brand new Harley Davidson. She had, brand new vehicle, jewelry collection. It all disappeared after her passing right there. It's just a unique history that we have.
Yeah.
And just to be a fly on the wall back then to know exactly what was going on. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wild history, because you got to think, you just go down the rabbit hole and you think to yourself, this is suspicious. I always thought Benita did it. That was how I felt, that Benita did it to take her stuff. But they've got to be in the pockets of the police, because who wrote up that report saying that she was destitute when everybody knew that she wasn't destitute? You know what I mean?
Right. And there was protection money and things going on at that point in time. And that's, if people are interested in that history, there's a book called The Bad Boys of Butte. And that goes over all of the corruption that was going on during that time period. Things are much better today. And God bless our police department. We love you guys. So
yes, not for sale now.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's wild to me how the amount of corruption I mean, it's not, because why else would you go to a town in the middle of the West like that? That it's kind of like you can make your own rules. You know what I mean? You just make your own rules, and whoever is the baddest and whoever is the smartest comes out on top,
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of funny. my grandfather sold newspapers for the Butte Daily Post here in Butte, and one of the stories he would always tell me is you had to fight for your corner. If you wanted the best corners here in Butte, you had to be the toughest kid in Butte, and you had to fight. And that mentality has kind of followed people throughout the years. I mean, it was a tough town. It was a tough town to live in, and you had to be tough to be here. I mean, just growing up with a mother, maybe you lost your dad, and she has 12 kids. I mean, that changes people. It says a lot, and it says a lot to the spirit of Butte as well, I would say.
Definitely. So maybe explain for people who are unaware or haven't had a chance to watch Ghost of Devil's Perch, explain the Cabbage Patch to people, because I think that is such a huge part of Butte's history as well.
The Cabbage Patch is going to run from the 1880s all the way up until the 1940s with FDR's New Deal. Basically, in a 6 square block radius, you're going to have shacks. Some of the houses were a little better than others. There were squatters on the land. There was no electricity, no running water. Butte's open sewer ditch ran through the area. But it was a mixed ethnic neighborhood. You're going to have everybody. The one unifying factor was poverty on that. And, some of the saddest residents would have to be those widows who lost their husbands in the mines and were down on their luck, living in those shacks right there. It's going to be torn out in the 1940s in order to put in affordable housing called the Silverbow Homes in that area. And it's been, also worked on throughout the years. But it was a tough neighborhood to grow up in. A lot of the older people I talk to have very fond memories of growing up there. And there were a lot of great people who came out of the Cabbage Patch. Joseph Elich, he was on One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He came out of the Cabbage Patch in Butte. But there were also some seedier elements. And Jared the Wise Murphy, one of our most famous police chiefs in Butte history, he was quoted as saying, if they're not in the Cabbage Patch on criminals, they're not in town. Because these people would run right into the Cabbage Patch and they'd hide. These are not the kind of people to rat people out or talk to the police. But of course, you're going to have your kings and queens of the Cabbage Patch. One of them being Pete O'Hara, which was featured on the show right there. The history of that show and everything else, it's solid. I mean, this is solid history. They did a great job with Ghost of Devil's Perch. But one person that has been overlooked, and we've kind of brought this up and kind of talked about this, and I asked you about this because I had a little inkling on who you were talking about, was a gal by the name of Mexicali Rose. And she was one of the queens of the Cabbage Patch, and she was just as brutal as Pete O'Hara, if not even more brutal. But I don't know, maybe you want to tell them about what you saw while we were in the patch right there. Yeah.
So we got Martin and I and our friends Kim and Scott Horn were lucky enough for you guys to be able to let us into the patch for the night to investigate, which was so much fun. So thank you for taking us in there.
Oh, yeah, of course.
What a dream, So I get in there and we're kind of wandering around, getting set up. And, we're all spread out and looking in different areas because there's still some of these shacks that are still left. What about 4 or 5 shacks still left from the Cabbage Patch?
There's about eight remaining shacks.
Shacks.
Some of them are used for storage. We have one called Tessa's Shack or Ethel Gill's Shack. One called the Veterans Cabin, which you picked up on Michael, and you guys got Michael's EVP. He is the veteran of that area. And then we have the Bachelor Shack, where Dave Schrader had his experience inside of there with the Richard Sims story.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So we were all in that area, and I had a woman step up to me and say, to hell with Pete O'Hara. I run this place. I run this patch. And she was pissed. She was telling me that she's the queen of the patch. Pete isn't shit compared to her, and that people better know her name. And she was so mad that you guys didn't talk about her on the television show. And I was like, Tony, do you know who this woman is? And you were like, oh my God.
That's another hair standing up moment right there. Yeah. Yeah.
And so you proceeded to tell me about Mexicali Rose.
So with our current tours that we just did, Fisk and I just did Black Heart of Montana Haunts, which was a series that we did every Wednesday with the trolley. And we took people out to the Dumas and the Cabbage Patch. I made sure I mentioned Mexicali Rose. She was definitely mentioned.
I'm sure she appreciates it.
Story. Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah, because she was just, I just thought that was wild. I'm like, Tony, would you understand this woman here? And you were like, I know who that is. And you were like, can you tell me what she looks like? Do you know what nationality she is? And so I was like, well, she's definitely not like white. I feel like she's like native or mixed or something. And yeah, and she just wanted to be acknowledged because she like said to me, like, look, I didn't do a lot of good things in my life, and this was my whole life. So I don't want it to be for nothing, good, bad, and all in between, good, bad, and all in between. I don't want it to be for nothing. So she just wanted to be acknowledged,
Yeah. And I think that's why a lot of them reach out and with the Cabbage Patch, you're going to have 1,500 to 2,000 residents living in that 6 square block radius. And the stories, we just don't know a lot of their stories. Yeah. And it could be people that are just forgotten. Yeah. I mean, and that's why I think it's important on why we do feature the Cabbage Patch. Everybody comes from somewhere. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we've really worked on with History Club is, talking about Butte's historical homeless and providing resources for kids and letting them know where the rescue mission is, these things like that. And remembering that history because they deserve to be remembered as well. Yeah. Just as much as William Andrews Clark or Fritz Augustus Hines or Marcus Daly.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you guys do that. And I love that how many do you have in your history? I know you have an incredible history club there in Butte.
Right now, I have 75 kids signed up. Our high school is about 1,200 students. So it's a pretty good turnout. Yeah. We're going on 20 plus years here. So
yeah, that's amazing. It's great that you guys take them out, you give them this history, you let them see it and touch it for themselves. It's not just some stuffy book in a classroom. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that makes such a difference to them.
Yeah. I mean, it's you can teach out of a book. I mean, anybody can do that, but it's when they get to see it and experience that and see the stories and actually get to see those artifacts and things like that. That's a whole nother connection. And that's a book for history, definitely. They passion for it.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I guess we're wrapping up here tonight, but I will say this. If you haven't been to Butte, what are you doing with your life? Just take a stroll on through Butte. The history will grab you like you've never been grabbed before, even if you're not on a tour. But if you do come to Butte, you should try to go on a tour. And Tony, could you tell them about the tours?
So if you do come to Butte, you have a variety of tours. If you go to the Butte Chamber of Commerce, we do a trolley tour that'll take you around town. It'll take you to the Berkeley Pit. We'll talk about the history of Butte, stop by the Cabbage Patch, go through the Red Light District, Chinatown as well, our former Chinatown. There's also underground tours up the World Museum of Mining that last an hour and a half long. Tour through the Copper King Mansion, William Andrew Clark's smallest mansion that he had. And he had mansions all around the world. Empty Mansions is a great book as well, folks, if you're interested in the history of that War of the Copper Kings as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Any other books that people should pick up to know about Butte and Butte's history?
I'm a huge fan of the War of the Copper Kings. Another one is Fire and Brimstone. We didn't really get to talk about this tonight. Largest hard rock mining disaster in the history of the United States happened right here in Butte. And you have 168 dead miners. And that book covers the tenacity and just what they went through in that disaster. So there's just so much history to cover.
It is.
It's hard. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's such a gut wrenching story. It really
is.
pulls at the heartstrings. Truly, truly it does. And, but you're right. There's so much history to Butte. It's impossible to tell it all in one go. You know what I mean? So I know that I will have you back on again in the future to talk
Awesome.
about the future of our investigating together, because I'm sure we are not even close to done. I'm sure I'll see you in spring.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. You guys are welcome anytime. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for coming on tonight and giving people a little taste of Butte history.
You're welcome.
All right. And we will see you guys next week on Spectre and Spooks. And thanks for watching.